here it is. The doctors at the hospital say that he will be absolutely fine within a week's time given that he follows their advice. Where do you think the error is, or if there is an error at all? So what about this one? Do you think there is an error? It seems like it's absolutely fine, right? Some of you are saying again D, right? It's a classic case of overlooking, right? It's like a spelling mistake, right? Classic case of overlooking. So advice C versus advice S, right? So a lot of you who overlook that mistake, which is a what do I say? Which is a pretty important mistake, because we're talking about a noun versus a verb. It's like effect versus affect, right? These are these confusing words that come in a context. So if you look at the last one, it says he follows their what? I need the noun form. The noun form is ADVICE. This one is a verb form, right? And we know this. It's not like we don't know this. So most of you are saying no error. I'm sure you overlooked this, right? So I can say Spurti advised that we should reconsider the idea, right? Which means Spurti is the subject. What is she doing? What is the action that she's doing? This is the verb, right? So Spurti advised that we should reconsider the idea, and Prem promised to follow her advice, right? Her what? Advice. Yeah. Doctors, plural subject, right? The doctors say, the doctor says, right? Subject verb agreement. है ना? The doctors say, the doctor says. So there's nothing wrong with part A, right? Plural subject, plural verb, absolutely fine. The doctors at the hospital say that he will be absolutely fine within a week's time given that he follows their, I need the right word class, which is the noun form and not the verb form. Follows their what? Advice. ADVICE. Right? Just like take my advice. Take my what? C. Anil advised me to register today. Yeah? Because in both those example sentences, the best way to know which form to use is to ask questions. Right? How will most usually answer the verb action? What will most usually answer the noun form? If he follows our what? C. He followed my what? C. Advice, noun form. Okay. Let's move on. So obviously the error is in part D again. We're going to move forward. So other confusing words I'm sure you know, right? Effect and affect. Right? This is the noun form. This is the verb form. Same thing. So it's important for you to, these are very, 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 what do I say? Silly mistakes that you make. It's not like you don't know. It's just that, what can I say? You overlook it. It's like a spelling mistake that you just overlook. Yeah? 20 years old absconder was caught in a local restaurant this morning. Where do you think the error is? Or do you think there is an error at all? So most of you came back and said, what did you guys say? Most of you came back and said A. Okay. So, yeah. So basically we say absconder. Who's an absconder? Just for vocabulary's sake. In case you didn't know who an absconder was. Who's an absconder? Have you heard that term before? Absconder, or is it a new term? What is the meaning of absconder? Basically, somebody who's trying to run away from something that they did illegally, or something wrong they did. So they abscond, right? So let's say, for example, if you're somebody who always comes late to work, right? And your boss happens to be there. So you know your boss is there. So you're like, let me just abscond from here. Which means you've done something wrong and you're trying to get away from that position, right? So usually it is related to, a fugitive. Yeah? Or somebody who's trying to escape, like a criminal or somebody who did something wrong. Somebody who's broken the law. Somebody who's trying to not get caught. Right? An absconder. Okay? But in our context, let's look at the context. It says a 20 years old absconder was caught in a local restaurant this morning. So which means obviously this guy, we understand that the error is in A, obviously. Why? Because you're using it as an adjective here, right? Describing the absconder. So here, even though it's an age, we are still using it as an adjective. So whenever I'm using age expressions as an adjective, it's usually, for example, let me just give you an example. So I can say 5-year-old children are experiencing many changes. Okay? 5-year-old describing the children. But the same thing I can say, children above 5 years old can participate in this program. Right? So just in terms of expression, children above 5 years old can participate in this program. So the same thing, if I have to use 20 years old, I can say the absconder has been lying low for the last 20 years, right? Or this particular, the absconder's car, random example, the absconder's car is 20 years old, right? Just to put it in a context. Yeah? Okay, so now that we have an idea, we understand it is in A, we're going to move forward. Can we say past, ma'am, meaning, Anil? Right? Child, one child, children, more than one child. That itself is plural. So, I cannot use children's, incorrect. The plural form of child is children, which means there's more than one child I'm referring to. Yeah? 5-year-old. So, when I'm referring to it as an adjective describing something, then I don't say years. But when I'm saying, children above 5 years old can participate in this program. Yeah? This 12-year-old car is giving me a lot of trouble. Okay, which means if you look at this, 12-year, not years, year, cars, right? It's acting like an adjective here, describing the car. Which car am I talking about? The 12-year-old car is giving me a lot of trouble. The same thing I can say, this car is 12 years old. Right? Where it's coming after the noun. The car is a noun, right? Here also the car is a noun. So before the car, like an adjective, Y-E-A-R. After the car, informative, years, 12 years old. You're giving additional information about the car. Right? Are you following? Year and years. Just to give you another example, I gave you this. Okay, super.